Alright, so time's running out really quickly in terms of the C-clamp challenge, and I've got just a couple of them laying here, and I've got a couple more that are actually being used out there on the tractor right now. They're holding a winch in place, and I need to get the winch done because I need to move a piece of equipment that I sold the other day. So I'm going to get all my C-clamps in one place, but I really need to get this winch fixed and maybe cleaned up a little bit. I think that's what today's content's going to be. And of course the C-clamp challenge will get posted on the 3rd or 4th or whatever the time frame it is. But anyway, let me go ahead and take you out there, show you the machinery that I sold, and then show you the winch that how I've got it situated on the tractor, and then we'll take a stab at cleaning it up. Alright, so this is a Case 360 excavator trencher. My older brother had picked this up. Guy was in a pinch and needed to sell it. It ran, drove, we rebuilt the hydraulics in it. And anyway, long story short, what happened is the gaskets, or something happened with the intake manifold. It's not worth showing you. But anyway, the intake manifold cracked. This sat outside the water. Surface tension carried the water down, ran inside the cylinders, locked it up. There's a possibility that I could unfreeze it, but there's, this thing has more problems than a math book. So we're just gonna found a guy that I sold my other tractor to, my little tractor. I will insert a picture of that now. But anyway, this thing does not run. So my predicament now is I need to move it, and I'm going to use a winch to do that. And I had to use a come-along to come along there to stow this arm and lift the dozer blade that's down there underneath the bottom. But anyway, let me go ahead and show you how I've got the winch situated on my tractor. Alright, so I've got this winch. It's sort of novel. I believe it was off of either to pull airplanes into a hangar or maybe even a boat lift. But it's a really neat winch. It's 110 volt. It's got a couple issues in the sense that the reversing switch, strain relief there would be nice. But it works really nice, and I've just got it C-clamped down to the bucket right here. And that sort of holds it on for small stuff, but I want to put it on a receiver hitch so I can plug it into the back. So let's bring it in and clean it up and see if we can't do that. Alright, so here's the winch on the workbench. I believe that this was either for a boat lift of some sort, or, perhaps, like I mentioned earlier, winching an airplane in or out of a hangar. So what it has is a drum switch in here, and the drum switch is, if you can see, this is forward and reverse, and this is really quiet. So I've got that's in and then out. So this is a very neat tool. It's very useful. However, it is probably one of the more dangerous machines that I have, in the sense that chains and sprockets are not forgiving at all. And if you have this out of reach, there's no shutting it off. If you can't unplug the extension cord or get to the knob fast enough, it has the ability to impart extreme forces very quickly, even though it's a slow speed machine. So you want to be careful with it. And my problem with it now is that there's no good way to affix it to anything. It's got, a piece of 1/2-inch plate aluminum here, which is great. Let me go ahead and unplug this so I don't get in trouble. So it's got this 1/2-inch plate, which is more than adequate to hold it together, in that this gear reduction, this worm drive here, get that in the frame a little bit better, that this worm drive is going to come down, and then this winch is completely separate from this mechanism, so this ends up being the chassis, if you will. But my problem with this is I don't have any way to mount it, so what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and take, what I have on all my vehicles is a receiver hitch, and I picked this thing up. I think it's a winch mount for a small winch, and this would typically just plug it in the back of your truck or SUV or whatever. And I'm going to see if I can adapt this to fit this so that I can plug it in. I can tell you right now that I think the overhang, the stick out on this, might become a problem on my pickup truck. However, I'm pretty confident that it will not be a problem on my tractor, and that's where I intend on using this most of the time. So let me go ahead and try to mock this up, and I'll bring you back when I've made more sense of this. And now, I had talked about this once before. I have an innate ability to pick up stuff that I don't need and find a use for it. These are the kind of bolts that you would use on like a sickle bar to hold on new teeth or whatever. And these were on sale at Tractor Supply. And I think these are going to work just absolutely perfectly for this. They're going to fit right in here. I'm just going to have to drill a couple holes on here. Drill an extra hole, and then I think we should be good to go on this. So this might not make much of a video. Alright, so it turns out I've got to disconnect the whole assembly here to get this other bolt back in the bottom of the hole here. There's just not enough gap in between here and there. So I'm going to disassemble this, install the bolt, and then come back and reassemble all this stuff, which is okay because it sort of forces me to get a little deeper into this. I guess that, you know, the good thing about making videos is I'm actually cognizant of what I'm doing. As opposed to just mindlessly getting out here and working and really not putting much thought into it, because I realize that I'm lazy. And with that electric motor that I did with the that GE fan last time, you know, I didn't go the extra mile. And I think, you know, if I need to work on something, if I need to improve one thing, for sure, it's, you know, to go that extra mile. But, you know, to qualify that a little bit, I'm working on this because I need to use it, like, soon. So I can't get caught up in can't go down this rabbit hole where I get into this beautification thing and forego, or in lieu of, you know, actually getting real work done. So anyway, I'm going to try to split the difference and make this look a little bit nicer and, you know, make it functional again. So let me get this disassembled, and then we'll do a little bit of cleaning up, some time lapse, and bring you back when I've got it cleaned up a little bit. Alright, so this has got some shmoo on it of some sort. It's really on there, whatever this stuff is. So I'm going to hit this with some of that super purple parts degreaser. Get it cleaned up, and then I'm going to dust this off with the Media Blaster, paint it black, and then I'll bring you back when I get done doing that. So. Amazing how these things spiral out of control. Alright, so I've got two wires coming in here, and the main lead wire, you know, we recognize that where we have the black, white, and I guess this would be, what do we have? Sort of a 4-wire system on this other side. So we've got the line in, and then we have the line out, and then as this drum, I don't want to mess this thing up. Now this drum is going to switch, and I guess what's happening here is you can see the dissimilar contacts, the way that these are, you know, inversely correlated to one another, proportional, whatever. So as this switches over, it's going to switch the way that the motor is wired and effectively reverse it. So these switches are very expensive. If you see one at a flea market or something like that for $1 or $2, it is well worth the chance of just picking it up and hoping that it works. Because if you have to go buy one new, you know, super expensive, especially for old drill presses, a Walker Turner or something like that. Even a 3-phase one, you know, it's, you know, an eBay worthy item, I believe. I've seen them for sale. You know, they're usually $100 or something like that from the stuff that I've seen. Anyway, enough about that. What I need to do now is the strain relief is gone on here. So what I need to do is unwire this. I need to carefully make note of where each wire is, then unwire this, then add a strain relief to here, because this is what's going to fail when you're out somewhere and you don't want it to fail. I can already see where it's starting to bite in and whatnot. So let me go ahead and start marking this stuff down, and then get it wired up. don't tell me I forgot to put the chain on. That chain was an absolute bear to get on there. I had to loosen every bolt on the thing, then tighten it up, then put the chain on it to snug it all back up again. So, you know, I guess if it's worth doing once, it's worth doing twice. What I'm doing now is I'm going to put the rope back on it. I like the synthetic rope. They say, I haven't broken one yet under pressure. They say that it doesn't have the elasticity to, like, if this were to expand, it would store that potential energy and snap and go flying. This has very low stretch. So that's a marketed benefit, but I think there's some pressure, some problem with all of that. Because wire rope doesn't stretch very much, but it stores a lot of energy. So I don't understand the physics enough to say one way or the other, but I'm going to... I still got to put the cap back on this, and then we'll wind this, and then I'll bring you over to the tractor and show you what I think it's going to look like when it's ready to work. Alright, so I looked online and I couldn't quite find anything, but when I was disassembling this little roller came out. And I can't help but think that this is part of some detent that rolls into these valleys here to sort of keep it from just automatically gliding from, you know, forward to reverse or on to off or whatever. But there doesn't seem to be a spring like there should be a spring. I don't know if you can see this. You zoom right into here. So this is going to sit in here, and then there's this corresponding little arm over here with a little hook on it. If I would know better, a spring would go there. So I've got a whole box of assorted springs, so I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna goof around with that, and if it works, I'll bring it back and let you know what I end up doing. Alright, so if you can see that now, that following arm is, you know, following, and it works just fine now. That's with the spring, so it doesn't seem to impede anything. Doesn't look like it's gonna fly off or throw anything. So I'm just gonna assemble this. Alright, the drum switch works. So I'm gonna, when you wrap the rope, that can determine whether it's up or down or whatever. So I'm gonna, let me see. Yeah, I want that to be in. So reverse is in, forward is out. And I've got to wrap this relatively tightly so that the rope doesn't get bound up in it. Alright, so let me get some stuff out of the way here. That is the trailer mounted. God, this bench is a mess. So that's going to slide into the receiver hitch. My problem is that this will not work with the central receiver hitch that's on the tractor, but I do have a secondary hitch that I think I can mount on the drawbar, and for just illustrative purposes I'm going to just use some C-clamps, hook this onto the tractor, and then hang this on it just so you can see what my plan is, and I'll go ahead and have to order some bolts for this. Whew, that sucker is heavy. Alright, now you can see my initial plan was fatally flawed because I've got this up right here, but now I've got another receiver mount just clamped on there. Alright, a quick little bit. This is the Sato tractor. I've got some other videos on that. If you want to know more about it, go check it out. It's a 23 horsepower Mitsubishi. I've only had it for a couple months. Haven't really done too much with it other than fuel system stuff, rewire some stuff. Haven't really used it to do much other than move my surface grinder. But now I'm happy to have the machine because I'm going to move some equipment. And I could try to drag the excavator that I was talking about, but you know, it's just, this machine isn't going to be strong enough to really drag that. And I think with a series of pulleys and cables and whatnot, I'll be able to use this low power winch to drag that, or to at least influence how it's going to go. I might have to use the pickup truck to move it or whatever, or a couple trucks. I don't know how that's going to go yet. But anyway, I would assume that this winch is probably somewhere in the range of maybe 2,000 pound pull capacity. And this rope, I believe, is rated for 4,000 pounds, maybe more. I'll put a picture of it up with the rating. And but anyway, that's my plan. It's super handy to have this. I've used this thing a million times. It's nice to be able to just slowly and quietly and methodically move stuff. And I think this is going to be a nice addition to the tractor. But and anyway, just to show you what I did, I just painted the motor, cleaned up the gear reduction housing, and painted this stuff. A little grease on the chain, nothing special. But oh, and then the new strain relief on the drum switch here, and painted all that. So anyway, that's the restoration for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I hope you have a good night.